بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على النبي الكريم. وبعد, to proceed, continuing with these sessions under the title Fiqh al-Nawazil, an academic course studying modern day issues that scholars have brought forward of verdicts. For verily this topic concerns us, especially here in the West. For verily from time to time question arises of contemporary matters. So I thought it was incumbent that these type of questions be answered by us reading the verdicts of the fiqh councils regarding them, inshallah. And generally the rule that we need to understand regarding al-nawazil is, as Ibn Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi, he mentioned in I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in, that قد كان أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يجتهدون في النوازل. They used to perform ijtihad. These times when new issues arise and emerge, it requires the a'imma, jurists and gigantic scholars to perform ijtihad, where they derive and deduct rulings from the Shariah to solve these contemporary issues before us. And as Imam Nawawi rahimahullah in his Sharh Sahih Muslim, he says, اجتهاد الأئمة في النوازل وردها إلى الأصول. The Imams performing ijtihad during these new contemporary issues emerging before the people and returning it back to the foundations of the Shariah. So this is how it is. We know the origin that proves this is the fact that we return matters to ulil amr, the people of knowledge and stronghold of the deen. And I'm going to bring up the tafsir of an important verse that could be the actual basis of this matter. Of the verse in Surah An-Nisa, the exegesis of it وَلَوْ رُدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنْبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ. That if they were to return these matters that can relate to issues of fear and safety amongst the people to the messenger who's before them, that is arising, or his sunnah at that time and afterwards, وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ, and the people of stronghold of affairs of authority and people of knowledge, لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنْبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ. They would know who are the people that can really derive and come to a conclusion in these matters. So in the tafsir, some of them are mentioned. لَعَلِمَ حَقِيقَةَ ذَلِكَ الْخَبَرَ الَّذِي جَاءَهُمْ بِهِ الَّذِينَ يَبْحَثُونَ عَنْهُ وَيَسْتَخْرِجُونَهُ. So those who really want to know the summary of certain matters and how to solve these issues that appear before us is returning it to these scholars that will decide upon their knowledge and their precedence of ilm and their experience regarding what it deserves of a ruling, inshallah. So this is the meaning. طيب. Now that we know this topic of nawazil, we took the first discussion last week relating to life support equipment and what takes its ruling. There were certain follow-up questions that came. So we want to quickly take those questions. One of the questions that came is, what if the doctor or the physician tells the family of the patient at the hospital, the matter is equal. It is not so clear that this person is on the verge of dying and we've lost hope from him. And it's not so clear that this person is going to recover possibility by the means of these life support machines. So Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd in his book Fiqh al-Nawazil, he says, فَالَّذِي يَتَّجِهُ عَدَمْ رَفْعِ الْآلَةِ حَتَّى يَصِلْ إِلَى هَدِّ الْيَأْسِ أو يَتَرَقَّى إِلى السَّلَامَةِ. In that type of scenario, where it's 50-50, the origin is that you leave the life support machines or whatever they're using as an additional support to keep the person alive, until it reaches to a level of yes, where we despair that the person is going to stay alive. Or يترقى إلى السلامة, that we're reaching to a level where the person no longer needs these life support machines, he's independent, he's reached to a level of survival. The next question that came is, what about if these equipment is only going to increase the person in suffering and prolonging the pain of death? So the scholars, they mention in a scenario where the doctor, the physicians, the trustworthy advisors tell the family of the patient that these equipment is no longer an ilaj, it's no longer a cure, it's no longer going to make the person stop dying or recovering to reach a level where to recover. This person is fi halat al-ihtidar, he's on the verge of dying, it's clear. He says here, Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd, لا ينبغي إبقاء آلة الطبيب والحالة هذه. It's not befitting to leave the equipment on the person while the state is this. You're just increasing the person لأنه يطيل عليه ما يؤلمه من حالة النزع والاحتضار. His soul is departing his body and you're just increasing him in pain of his last feelings. That's all you're doing. So that is one decision that relates to that question. Another question that came, in the context of terminally ill patients who will most likely die in a few days, what is the ruling of providing comfort care? Examples, providing medications like opiates, which can slow down breathing, but can potentially accelerate the death by reducing pain. So this question I pose to a number of the shuyukh, from them Sheikh Salih al-Usaymi, Hafidhahullah. So he responded by saying, لا يجوز وصف أو صرف الدواء المؤدي إلى الموت السريع ويعتبر قتلا للنفس. He responded to this question that it's not permissible to prescribe or to hand out a medication that will lead to what will accelerate the death of the person. For really this is considered to be killing the individual. So when they provide these medications, from one angle it's reducing the pain the patient is going through, because the person is in suffering. أَلَا إِنَّ لِلْمَوْتِ لَسَكَرَاتٍ. Death has agony of pain to it. So he's going to give you a medication to reduce the pain of sakarat al-maut. That is what some of them are looking at it from. But you're not allowed to accelerate the death of anyone if you know that this medication, that is a pain reliever, is going to, maybe for example, slow down his breathing, as mentioned, where it may increase the chances of acceleration of the death. So here you would not do that. So that doctor, the Muslim doctor who's asking this question, we mentioned to him this verdict of the scholar: you should refrain. Unless you know that in this scenario, given the medication or not given the medication, the affair is just equal. It's not going to accelerate the death. The person is going to die as he is. This medication has no increase of speeding up the process. So that is inshallah. Another question that came, sorry, there was a few follow-ups. It relates to when I was in Yemen, and this is how it is in the hospitals of today, especially with the capacities as it is now. The life support equipment is limited. The resources that they have at the hospital is limited. And there's just a number of times they can keep it on one particular patient. They can't keep it for so long. So they're going to come to you and say, we need these equipment. There's others that are deserving of it. We're short. They might not say that to you, but this is what they're indirectly implying. And the person is basically mayyit. He's on the verge of dying. So if he's ma'yus, the individual is like, they've lost hope in him. And the people have lost hope. And it's really proven by the advice that we gave in a previous class, and there's science to it. Then here they can remove, if they can prove that this life support is no longer a ilaj, they can remove it. If it's no longer benefiting or bring a cure or chances of that, they can remove the equipment and give it to another patient as is limited. And I'll give you an example. In Damaj, during the civil war, or when the Houthis, they attacked Damaj and people were wounded, there was a clinic that was there. And this was very intense. It's like decision making out of the most sensitive of moments. There was people bleeding to death. There were some people that looked like on the verge of dying. So the doctors there were people of knowledge. At the same time, pharmacists, doctors, they came together and they noticed that the IV and the certain things that they had, of even blood, was limited. So they looked to the individuals that they lost hope in, of surviving from their wounds. And basically, there's certain signs, as we gave in last class, that Umar al-Khattab, he drank the milk and it came out from his waist. That was a sign that he's no longer going to live. So there's no point of giving an ilaj here. So I even told them, why are you not giving the IV to a particular individual? Or why are you not giving this person blood who's bleeding to death? They said, this person is mayyit. He is on the verge of dying. So, and our resources are limited. We're going to give it to those who are still possible from the angle وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسِ جَمِيعًا. Who is ever to save one life, then it's as if he saved all people, all humanity. So this is from the fiqh al-nawazil. Same thing with these doctors. They're going to assess the matter and look into it thoroughly. So let us take today's discussion, inshallah. This is a hope and answer. So with no further delay, we ask the brother to start the reading. Discussion number 2, if you can start from there.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم اغفر لنا ولمعلمنا ولمن له حق علينا أما بعد. Discussion number 2 from the topics of modern day nawazil. Topic: trading in digital currencies such as Bitcoin. What is e-currency or cryptocurrency? E-currency or cryptocurrency is a type of currency that is stored electronically that is used as a means for payment without any need for a bank account when doing a transaction. What are the different opinions that the scholars take? Concerning its Islamic ruling, the contemporary jurists and modern-day fiqh councils have divided amongst themselves into the following 4 groups. The first group, who have issued a verdict of it being impermissible. Second group, who have issued a verdict of it being halal according to certain guidelines and conditions. Third group, who have changed their opinion of deeming it impermissible to being permissible. And the fourth group, who withhold from saying it is halal or haram and incline to it being a doubtful matter.
طيب. So this topic of العملات الرقمية المشفرة, digital currencies or cryptocurrencies that they've titled, or currencies that are set of what is found electronically. So different ways you can word it. And the first of them is Bitcoin. And it's the most valuable of them in terms of value. There are so many. Some have said currently there's over 10,000 digital currencies. And we are going to discuss mainly Bitcoin because this is the one that is really what people are discussing amongst themselves. It was first introduced in the year 2009 by an individual who he has a name online, but they haven't yet found out who this real individual is. He goes by the name Satoshi Nakamoto, and some have said this is like a Japanese name. So his true identity, there's a bunch of rumors who he may be, but once they found someone of his similar name, that person denied of being that individual. It came out online. It was actually planned from 2007, but it was introduced in 2009, and it gained more popularity in 2017. 2017, this is where the era of Bitcoin really hit a level of popularity. And there's so much rumors of who was the actual founder. Some spread rumors that it was Elon Musk, but that's not true. There's nothing to prove that. And when it was established with a white paper that was written by under this name Satoshi Nakamoto. It describes a peer-to-peer electronic payment system that is decentralized and enables financial transfers without a bank. Basically, whoever designed or created the Bitcoin and its likes, they wanted to enable money transfer without the involvement of a third party. That was the goal. That the governments or the central banks have no involvement. This is one of the intentions behind it. And it said that there's possible signs that the person who founded it was someone who have signs as being a hacker, not just anyone that designs softwares, because he is the one that from the most people that benefited the most in terms of finance. Because when he created and collaborated with other developers on Bitcoin software in 2010, making all modifications to the software, he ended up completely removing his involvement from the project. So it no longer has anyone involved, like as a particular figure. So this is something that it's good to know, the history of it. And when it first appeared, there were so many questions posed and no one had answers to it. So many questions were posed and no one had answers to it. So there was a lot of reasons for someone to be skeptical, and for that reason, a lot of scholars at that time came and issued verdicts that it's not permissible, or some who said that it was not a transaction that is clear that you can engage in or invest in. And even when it was introduced, there was a lot of criminal activities connected to it online. Money laundering, fraud, scams of various of types. So right when it first started, we just seen so much harm. And it's asluhu jahala, it's unknown. The intent and who founded it. And then when it was engaged with so much criminal activity alongside of it. To the point that because of the criminal activity and how much is exposed, and also the so much risk factors that are found therein of speculation, it was not adopted by many countries, nor recognized or accepted as a payment at the very beginning. So this is good to just know as the tarikh, inshallah. And now we're going to read some of these different views, because with the passing of time, the views of the scholars began to evolve, and it led us to these 4 opinions. So before, it was perhaps limited to 1 or 2 opinions at the beginning. And either it's doubtful or it's impermissible. It was rare to find someone of a standard committee come out bluntly at the very beginning and say that it was permissible. Yes, there are individuals that don't really, their verdicts don't hold weight, but in terms of the recognized and renowned scholars, either they were saying it was impermissible or either they were saying it was doubtful. Then it evolved another stage where we have 4 opinions. 4 opinions, and we're going to read these opinions of these 4 different group of scholars or group of committees.
First group who have issued a verdict of it being impermissible. Number 1, the Council of Senior Scholars in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Permanent Committee. They have not yet expressed an official verdict regarding cryptocurrencies. However, from what is apparent is that they incline to it being impermissible or at least to be doubtful. Many great members of the Council and Committee have openly stated online that it is not permitted, including Sheikh Abdullah bin Sulaiman al-Mani', Sheikh Abdullah al-Mutlaq, Sheikh Sa'd al-Shitri, and Sheikh al-Rakban and others.
طيب, so with the different verdicts of some of the senior scholars of Saudi Arabia, they have wordings that show that they're completely against it and they deem it to be haram. They deem it to be haram, especially Sheikh Abdullah bin Sulaiman al-Mani', who is a member of Hayat Kibar al-Ulama, the senior Saudi scholars of fiqh, and also he's part of the Majma' al-Fiqhi, the International Islamic Academy. He's 92 years old, and he researched this matter thoroughly and spoke to financial advisors, and he came to the conclusion. His verdict is found online. He has an audio. Also, Sheikh Abdullah Mutlaq, who's also part of Hayat Kibar al-Ulama as a member, he has 2 verdicts. One where he clearly mentions that it's not permissible. Another one, he says, when the centralized banks adopt it and accept it, then it will be accepted. What the banks say about it is what we follow. That's what he mentioned in another verdict of his. Sheikh Sa'd al-Shitri, we asked him here in this masjid as a telelink, and he has his verdicts recorded. You can find it on our masjid Telegram channel, where he mentions clearly that it's not permissible because you don't know who's behind it and what it's upon, and it's a transaction built upon doubts. Sheikh al-Rakban, he himself has an audio verdict where he stated this, and other members of great figures of Saudi Arabia, of scholarly figures, have stated this. So up until now, it hasn't been adopted by the official councils in Saudi Arabia, because their scholars are mainly against it. Their scholars are mainly against it. Number 2, go ahead.
Number 2, the Fatwa Department of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. It was founded in 1921. They issued the following statement: governments should not grant permission to deal with bitcoins in the current situation because the evils resulting from dealing with them are greater than the desired interests.
So some of you may find this website often when people search up on Google, the Fatwa Department of the Kingdom of Jordan. They were founded in 1921. They're known for their verdicts and the research. They looked into this as well, and they issued this verdict. Follow, move on.
Number 3, Dar al-Ifta al-Misriya, the Foundation for Fatawa of Egypt, issued the following statement. After extensive research and study, and after referring to economists and parties related to the issue of electronic currencies, especially Bitcoin, the Fatwa Committee of the Egyptian Dar al-Ifta considers that trading these currencies and dealing through them by buying, selling, renting, etc. is prohibited by Shariah due to its negative effects on the economy, its disruption of the balance of the market and the concept of work, the loss of the dealer in the required legal protection and financial oversight, and the fact that it contains separating oneself from being under the umbrella of the rulers and depriving them from some of their specialties in this regard. And because of what it includes of the harm resulting from deceit, ignorance, and fraud in its disbursement, standard and value, and that is included in the general saying of the Prophet, may Allah's peace be upon him and his family, whoever deceives us is not one of us. In addition to the high risks that its practice leads to for individuals and countries, and the legal rule states that no harming nor reciprocating harm. End of quote.
So there is verdicts that they that they initially issued of this meaning, that currencies, how they are issued or how they are carried out, should be under the umbrella of the people of authority of that land. And Imam Ahmed, he says, لا يصلح ضرب الدراهم إلا في دار الضرب بإذن السلطان لأن الناس إن رخص لهم ركبوا العظائم. Taken from ALHAQQACADEMY Sultaniyah, page 281, that he says it's not appropriate for the people to establish a medium of exchange of currencies amongst themselves except with the permission of the ruler. If it wasn't, if the people were given a concession to do so, and without the oversight of the ruler, rakibul adaim, they would do the most outrageous of things. And this is what we see through Bitcoin. Find some Turkish man, and he committed the most greatest of scam, took a lot of money and disappeared. And the people of authority are still looking for him. How many criminals have appeared because of cryptocurrencies? How many people's wealth have been lost? And also from the benefit of it is there should be a person of authority that they can return back to for disputes. And if there are issues of loss of wealth, when you go to the websites that they have addressing bitcoins, and you try to check, like, what about if there's theft? They'll tell you answers that is a bit, like, for example, they say you can report the theft to the police and the platform security team, but there's little they can do, subhanAllah. Finding a way to recover, a recovery service is the quickest way to recover your cryptocurrency. And they said only through a genuine recovery expert will be able to recover your stolen Bitcoin. And this is an article from March 1st, 2023. And if your cryptocurrency was stolen from an exchange, they said you should contact the exchange immediately Exchanges may have their own recovery procedures in place that can help you recover your stolen coins. Furthermore, exchanges may have information on the hacker that can help law enforcement agencies track them down. But a lot of the times, when it doesn't have that third party of a government or a central recognized figure that the people, their wealth rotates amongst them and they can return their issues, it lacks protection. It lacks one of the maqasid of the Shariah. What is one of the main objectives of the Shariah? Preservation of wealth. Hifdul mal. People's wealth are not being preserved like this. This is being exposure to the loss of many people's wealth. And even like the richest person who's a Bitcoin holder, the brothers pardon me in mispronouncing his name, Changpeng Zhao, 65 billion. He's the founder and the COO of one of the largest cryptocurrency exchange trading company. He used to once work at a McDonald's flipping burgers, but now he's the richest crypto billionaire. And this individual, and he himself went through stages. They said he's the one that lost the most money following the crypto crisis of 2022, with a net worth dropping amounting to 82 billion US dollars. And he himself, who gained so much, lost so much. Like the one that benefited so much from it is in tragic loss. That amount of wealth is not for hifd al-mal, brothers. So you can see that it has so much to it that even the one that's benefiting could not be saved from its harm. طيب, this is something to mention that, like they say, they have certain investigation techniques on the blockchain analysis that is essential for retrieving Bitcoin that has been stolen. These methods and technologies aid in tracing the movement of money, locating addresses connected to the fraud, and spotting erroneous transactions. They have some certain methods and techniques of investigation, but little does it know. But is this enough to say it's haram? Some of them say you can say the same thing with paper money. Paper money, there's so much ways people's wealth can be scammed. Someone can break into a person's house and take all the money from the safe. Large amounts of money, how many times incidents have happened of banks have been robbed. Yes, there's someone to report back to, but they're saying this exposure of wealth being stolen. But the people that brought this forward, they're saying there's no real person that you could return your complaints to if your wealth has gone missing of these bitcoins. For them.
Number 4. The Committee of Religious Affairs in Turkey issued the following statement online. Since cryptocurrencies are open to speculations, mostly used for illegal transactions and far from state auditing and supervision, their trading is not appropriate at this time in the light of Shariah.
Yeah, they said once Bitcoin was released, the first of the people that jumped on it were terrorists, the biggest of criminals. People that were into certain activities that they wanted to conceal from the government, they were the first people that jumped on it. And it became a service for them. للمجرمين. تفضل with this.
The Syrian Islamic Council, SIC. In November 2019, they issued a fatwa declaring that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin were haram or forbidden. As a representative body, the SIC claims to represent 40 leagues and religious committees that have formed in Syria since 2011 and aims to be the chief Sunni religious authority for the country.
So we can see that in terms of majority of jurists alive today, up until now, they hold it to be impermissible. And the reasons are here. Also, we're going to read that the Legal Islamic Committee of the Emirates, they haven't yet removed their verdict, even though in terms of the government of the Emirates, inclining now to bitcoins and cryptocurrencies, but the actual Islamic awqaf of research of they're still on their verdict. They're still on their verdict Islamically. Tafadhal. Number 6. طيب, the Legal Islamic Committee of the Emirates, and we just leave the link without the... Tafadhal, next one.
Number 7. The International Union of Muslim Scholars presented a fatwa about digital currencies, including Bitcoin. After extensive deliberation and discussion, they decided that it is not permissible to deal in Bitcoin and other unofficial digital currencies in their current state, neither trading them nor manufacturing them. Side note, the International Union of Muslim Scholars, IUMS, Al-Ittihad Al-Alami Li'ulama Al-Muslimin, is an organization of Muslim Islamic theologians established by the Muslim Brotherhood movement based in Qatar. According to its website, there are at least 90,000 Muslim scholars to be found in the union who claim to bring together Sunni, Shia, and Ibadi Muslims.
And from the biggest founders was Yusuf Qaradawi. The biggest founder of this union, Yusuf Qaradawi. So after he passed away, there's still members that run it. A lot of their figures are from Ikhwan Muslimin, and they added Shia and different people to research topics. A lot of the topics they get involved in is what relates to Palestine. But this is a union that researched this matter, and from what they've mentioned, it's a number of topics in terms of if it's actually a currency or if it's considered to be a commodity. And they see that it doesn't fit anywhere. If you look at it from the currency point of view, they say it's not a currency. If you look at it from a commodity point of view, they say it's not a commodity. It doesn't meet all of what is entitled or what means a commodity in technical terms. And one of the biggest things that they stand on is the hadith of Abu Hurairah in Sahih Muslim, Naha Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam anil gharar. The Prophet ﷺ prohibited uncertain transactions. This is the hadith, brothers. Transactions that are ambiguous. It's not so clear. There's a lot of jahala. You don't know what's going to be when you're looking at the speculations. The spike is so outrageous that you can't really base it upon certain factors. And they say yes, it's based upon the interest rates. That's how it goes up and down, or it's by certain countries adopting it. And the more users of it, that's how it rises. But sometimes to actually determine that type of spike and it's how it goes so high and it goes so down, they still haven't yet found a real yardstick to determine these causes. So this is from the jahala, brothers. This is from the gharar that we see that may fall into this hadith. Also from the things that they look at is how it's so exposed to cryptojacking, people as hackers. It's a growing threat to businesses and users that are exploited through computers or mobile devices. And many people become victim to it. And even how virus can affect a person's computer, or certain exposures to these affairs that a person could be a victim to cybercrime. Cybercrime, they call it, where your cryptocurrency was taken from you or certain exchange by a hacker. So yes, they have certain security teams now and security programs, but it's still doubtful, brothers. It's still doubtful. Follow, move on.
Second group, who have issued a verdict of it being halal
And one of the reasons why banks are not allowed to trade in Bitcoin is a lot of banks that have not accepted it is due to the concerns over financial crimes and hacking. And in particular, we're speaking about Qatar, cryptocurrencies banned in the Qatar Financial Center. Go ahead.
Second group, who have issued a verdict of it being halal according to certain guidelines and conditions. Number 1, the Accounting and Audit Organization for Islamic Financial Institution, AAOIFI. They conclude...
So they, in Arabic, they're called هيئة المحاسبة والمراجعة لمؤسسات المالية الإسلامية. It was first established in Algeria, and also it has a branch in Bahrain. They have approximately 20 members, and they're good for like معاملات المالية المعاصرة. They study modern day business transactions. And from their works is a book called Legislative Standards, Ma'ayir Shariah. It's a big book. It's found in English too. A lot of the topics that was as modern day issues, leasing, this topic, that topic, you can find it. You can see the verdict and the conditions of how they answer. And from the people that were part of, who looked into some of the research, was Sheikh Saleh Luhaydan. And he looked into some of their research. So they have some sort of reliability and integrity that you can consider. Follow?
They conclude that cryptocurrency is a store of value, unit of measure, means of exchange, although extremely volatile, but it is permitted for transactions and commercial activities. AAOIFI adds that for cryptocurrencies to be Sharia compliant, they must be issued and guaranteed by the government, free from illegal uses, and must not be speculative.
Okay, so they're permitted based upon conditions, according to certain guidelines and conditions. Because as you see now, more and more countries are beginning to adopt cryptocurrencies of certain, from them, like particular Bitcoin. And it's becoming a payment that is accepted in certain transactions. And it has a value now. And it's subject, objective and subjective value. And both of them, and this is looked at from different angles. Follow the next one.
The Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, AMJA. They have stated the following. Dealing with cryptocurrency is closer to being permissible than prohibited when the Sharia parameters in dealing with it are met. These include, all of the following must be legal. The purpose of the issuing of the currency, the manner in which it is issued, the manner in which the initial investment is done, and the activities funded by the issuance. The coin offering is earnest, credible, and reliable. The coin offering is a real project and not simply a speculative proposal. These coins are currency, so when exchanging the same currency, the transaction must be a spot transaction and for an equivalent amount. When exchanging different currencies, it must simply be a spot transaction. To say that cryptocurrency is permissible does not imply in any way an encouragement to invest in these currencies. It also does not deny the risks involved in investing in cryptocurrencies due to what they are exposed to of speculation as well as government restrictions in some lands. In addition, one also must be aware of investing in cryptocurrency tokens or utility tokens that do not actually have real viable projects behind them.
Yeah, so there was a scheme of some of the cryptocurrencies that were fake. It was just a scam. So some of them designed certain cryptocurrencies, people went in with it, and it was all a scam. So there's a large amount of these cryptocurrencies out there. People fell for them, and they lost their wealth. So this is something to pay attention to. Follow?
The reasons that some scholars give for saying that cryptocurrencies are not allowed are not sufficient reasons to prohibit them, because many of those arguments also apply to the money that is issued by central banks. Those objections include Cryptocurrencies are not issued from a central governmental authority. Cryptocurrencies do not have intrinsic value. There is nothing material or governmental backing up cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are not recognized as legal tender, which means that they do not have the authority to pay off legal considerations. The identity of those who deal in them are not known, and there is a lot of instability in the prices of cryptocurrencies. It is clear that many of these objections are to be taken into consideration in the light of the evolution of these currencies. When it comes to cryptocurrencies, taking possession occurs when the purchaser's name is added to the blockchain, as that is the only way to affirm possession and transfer ownership. If there is no authentication on blockchains, the currency has no reality to it then. AMJA calls for caution and complete awareness to the best of one's ability when dealing with cryptocurrencies, as there are scams and rapid changes in the field.
So, we know Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, a virtual currency designed to act as money and a form of payment outside the control of any one person, group, or entity, thus removing the need for the third-party involvement in financial transactions. And this is where from this definition, questions came. Because when people permit it, we asked a number of questions. And what they said here, that some of the scholars declared it haram for those reasons. There's other questions that the scholars, they didn't find an answer to their questions, and that's why they didn't. For example, the first question, how is the intrinsic value of cryptos determined? That question has yet not to be really determined, answered in an accurate manner. How is it backed or guaranteed? Second question. Whenever someone brings up cryptocurrency, I ask you these questions. Next question, is it a currency or a commodity? There's still, even amongst them, those who permit it. Some are permitted as a commodity, some permit it as a currency. So, إِنَّكُمْ لَفِي قَوْلٍ مُخْتَلِفٍ. You all are differing amongst yourselves. What is it? So, you find that it's unclear at this point. This is a source of gharar. When people buy it, they see it went from something cent to probably 50K. They don't see because they don't see it could just as easily go back to zero, because the value is based on speculation rather than evaluation or having a value. Another thing too that he said, 29% of Bitcoins are lost and gone forever. Wallah. And that's 7.7 million Bitcoins. Gone. And it will never return. And that's another question. Right? And they can't deny this. That 29% of Bitcoins have gone missing and they're gone forever. And they can't, because they say their notes or whatever they have of these silsila, these chains that they have that could trace through databases every Bitcoin in the world. For those ones, they said it's gone, missing, untraceable. So that's scary. I mean, this is another thing that's crazy. Move on to follow.
Number 3, the Fiqh Council of North America, FCNA. They have stated the following: all praise is due to Allah, and may peace and salutations be upon the Prophet. Bitcoins are a type of cryptocurrency which are digital assets that exist online or in stored electronic medium. They are a recent invention whose purpose is to act as digital money for online transactions. A primary goal of these currencies is to avoid a centralized bank or government. Cryptocurrencies are not backed by any tangible assets and are typically produced by users who volunteer to do so through a complex process called mining. All transactions are recorded in online ledgers known as blockchains, the transparent nature of which precludes any tampering or alteration. Transactions involving cryptocurrencies are typically anonymous and untraceable. There are many hundreds of cryptocurrencies. The first and most well-known is Bitcoin. The base ruling in Islam is that all matters pertaining to human relations, mu'amalat, are permissible unless proven otherwise. This is a well-known and agreed upon maxim in fiqh, al-asl fil ashya al-ibaha. The Fiqh Council views that the objections some have raised against Bitcoin, such as the anonymity of the user, the uncertainty of its future value, the absence of an issue of authority or government regulation, and other objections, are not strong enough to warrant a verdict of impermissibility. Hence, they remain upon the default, which is permissibility.
Because they said there's certain currencies that we use now, we don't even know who's the founder, and we still use it. And it's certain currencies even in the past of exchange. Man muassis, who was the first to start it? We don't know, but mashallah, we use it. So they say that's not a strong argument. Follow?
As well, the Fiqh Council's the view that Bitcoins shall be treated with the same Islamic rulings that apply to all fiat currencies. This includes, but is not limited to, the following. All the rulings of riba will apply to Bitcoins as they do to fiat currencies. Exchanging Bitcoins for other cryptocurrencies or for fiat currency must be done as a spot trade at the current rate of exchange. Purchasing and trading in Bitcoins for the sake of investment is permissible. Zakat will be due on Bitcoin investments if an Islamic year has passed and it is more than the nisab amount. Obtaining Bitcoins from another person in an impermissible, illegal, or deceitful manner is sinful, as is the case with fiat money. It is permissible to mine Bitcoins and to be paid for one's effort in doing so, even if the payment is in the form of Bitcoins itself. It should be noted that this fatwa is specific to Bitcoins. Despite the fact that there are many hundreds of cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum and Ripple, there are some minor differences that might potentially affect the rulings of other cryptocurrencies and hence would require a separate examination of those factors.
Ethereum, the people add that, a lot of them add it to Bitcoin. They say, well, if Bitcoin's halal, then that one's a halal. Follow?
In conclusion, while the Fiqh Council agrees with the position of those scholars and fatwa committees that state Bitcoins are essentially halal, it also stresses that the Shariah commands Muslims to be wise with their wealth and not waste it. Given the volatility and many uncertainties surrounding cryptocurrencies in general, the Fiqh Council strongly advises Muslims to be extremely cautious and do due diligence before deciding to invest in this market, and Allah knows best.
So some of these committees that made it permissible for certain guidelines and conditions, they're not actually encouraging for people to invest into them. That's another thing too. All of these committees, or even these scholars, a lot of them, most of the times they will tell you, we don't advise. Even though we deem it permissible, but we won't advise for you to invest in them. He says, well, brother, the same fatwa that you're holding on to, the same person is telling you this because of what has occurred for many, and also what has been said, كيف وقد قيل, they don't usually advise. So there's academically, they'll say it's permissible, but practically they'll be like, avoid it. This is what we find with some of them. They give you a long verdict on paper. It is permissible, and the origin regarding wealth is this. And then at the end they'll be like, be cautious. Don't. Tafadal.
Third group, who have changed their opinion of deeming it impermissible to being permissible. The following jurists deem trade in cryptocurrency to be halal after either deeming it impermissible or doubtful. Number 1, Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Barraq, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Number 2, Sheikh
Abdul Rahman al-Barraq, he first declared that it was impermissible. Then he came out, as found on his website, that he said he once deemed it impermissible, but now he sees that it's a currency and that is accepted, and the people have accepted it. But there is another quote that someone quoted on him that he now holds back again, but he sees there's zakat on it. If someone has it, he has to pay zakat for it. So there is another statement been attributed to him. Allah knows best. It's not as strong as what is found on his website. Hold on.
Number 2, Sheikh Sa'd al-Khatlan, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
So Sheikh Sa'd al-Khatlan, at first, he was on the opinion that it's not permissible. Then he went to a stage where he was doubtful and hesitant. Then he went to a stage where he deems it to be permissible. And he says the speculation in there is found in shares. That the same speculation that we find At the stock market, you know how the stock market just goes so up, and then it just goes so down, and how people are, the exchange rates and so forth, at times. He says these are what's found in ashum. So it's, if you say bitcoins is haram and cryptocurrency is haram because of this, then shares and stocks is going to be haram, and bidding on certain prices for currencies like other currencies is going to be haram as well. Follow?
Number 3, Dr. Abdullah As-Sulami, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Follow.
And number 4, Sheikh Muhammad Hisham Al-Tahiri of Kuwait.
Because the other one, Dr. Abdullah As-Sulami, inclines that is more like a commodity. And that if it's like a commodity, then it has its value in itself. You can exchange it. Like, for example, if I have gold, I can say this gold has its own value, and also I can exchange it for something else. So they're saying these coins have become like that. They have value in themselves, and also that you can exchange it for something. This is what some have said. But Sheikh Sulaiman Ruhaili, he critiqued the statement, because money is of various types. There's something called commodity money. Al-nuqud al-sil'al'iyya, it's like commodity money that it gives حاملها القدرة على استخدامها واستبدالها مثل الذهب يمكن ارتداؤه أو استبداله بشيء آخر. You can wear the gold, or you can use it to exchange something else. That's commodity money. So those who come and say that cryptocurrency is like commodity money, he says that that's not applicable. It's not applicable because it doesn't really have value in itself. Like if someone if you give someone Bitcoin, they say, I got you a Bitcoin, keep it. He's only going to use it for exchange. It's a medium for exchange. It's not a commodity in itself. What other utility does Bitcoin have other than exchange? Is he going to do something with it? He's going to keep it as a souvenir? Huh? No. So they said it can't be a commodity. It can't be a commodity. Follow?
Fourth group, who withhold from saying it is halal or haram and inclined to it being a doubtful matter. Number 1, the International Islamic Fiqh Academy, Al-Majma' Al-Fiqhi Ad-Duwali. They have stated the following. The Council of the International Islamic Fiqh Academy of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation held its 24th session in Dubai, United Arab Emirates on the 7th to 9th Rabi' al-Awwal 1440, corresponding to...
And this fourth, we left the fourth as the strongest. This is like one of the strongest research. And Majma' Al-Fiqhi Ad-Duwali, it is one of the strongest Islamic fiqh councils in the world. And their research is mu'tabar with us. It's not any type of, like, the fact that they came together and it was a heated debate, I heard. It happened of that year, I believe it was in November of 2019. They were exchanging different ara. And one of the members, even of the fiqh council, he wrote a whole book trying to prove that it was permissible. And it's found on their website. And they got heated. I heard it was qisam, like people were saying, no, it's permissible, and others from them were saying, no, it's not permissible. And then they concluded that it's doubtful and needs more research. After that huge debate. It was very heated. Follow with this.
Corresponding to 4th to 6th of November 2019, after examining the recommendations of the Scientific Symposium on Electronic Currencies held in Jeddah, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on the 10th to 11th of Muharram on 1441, corresponding to 09 to 10 September 2019, and after listening to the debates regarding the subject, resolves the following. First concept, dealing mechanisms and risks. Number 1, given the generic meaning of the concept of electronic currencies, which includes credit cards, prepaid cards, electronic checks, and others, discussions concluded to use the term of digital and coded encrypted currency. Some of the most popular of these currencies include Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the Ripple. Despite having notable differences, these currencies are characterized by being encrypted, having no tangible physical existence or presence. Its transaction might be negotiated between parties without intermediaries, known as peer-to-peer system. According to the research presented, these currencies are classified into three types. First, coins such as Bitcoin. Second, alternative currencies or altcoins such as Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and the Ripple. Third, tokens, which are tradable and exchangeable assets with goods and cryptocurrencies. One of the most significant characteristics of coins mentioned in the first type is decentralization, which means that unlike other types of currencies, no government or private entity supervises its issuance. Most cryptocurrencies function on blockchain technology, which produces the currency and maintains the full record of currency transactions. Another characteristic of Bitcoin is the controversy over the personality of its first user, inventor.
So those who disagree with the Majma', they say, okay, when you go to the park, the amusement park, you're going to get a token to use something. They're going to give you something that's money there. You give money, and equivalent to that money, they give you certain tokens that you can only use at that park. So that token is issued by a private sector. It's not really recognized. If you take it elsewhere, can you use it? It won't be accepted. Is it recognized by the government? No, it's not recognized by the government. But at the same time, is it something you can exchange and use as for payments? Yes. So some of them have objected from this angle. They objected from this angle. And also, when you look at the definition of Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah about currencies, he says, وَأَمَّا الدِّرْهَمْ وَالدِّينَارُ فَمَا يُعْرَفْ لَهُ حَدٌّ طبيعي أو طبع ولا شرع يعني that بل مرجعه إلى العادة والاصطلاح. He says, as for like currencies of dirham and dinar, then you don't know any limitation for it, of natural limitations or legislative limitations. It goes back to the aada, the customs and the norms and the technicalities of the people. وذلك لأنه في الأصل لا يتعلق بالمقصود به بل الغرض أن يكون معيارا لما يتعاملون به والدراهم والدنانير لا تقصد لنفسها بل هي وسيلة إلى التعامل بها ولهذا كانت أثمانا بخلاف سائر الأموال فإن المقصود بها الانتفاع بها بنفسها فلهذا كانت مقدرة بالأمور الطبيعية أو الشرعية والوسيلة المحضة التي لا يتعلق بها غرض أو بها غرض لا بمادتها ولا بصورتها يحصل بها المقصود كيفما كانت. So مجموع فتاوى volume 19, Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah clarifies that currencies goes back to if the people recognize it. So now that Bitcoin is being recognized, and internationally by a lot of people now, a lot of countries are somewhat allowing it as being a payment, and even certain companies are purchasing it. Tesla announced that it bought 1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. The company also said it would start accepting Bitcoin as a payment method for its products. So, yes, they're not a legal tender. However, they're considered a legal tender. What's the meaning of that? Individual business can choose to accept cryptocurrency at their own risk. The relatively more formal CRA won't accept it as a form of payment for your taxes. However, everyone and anyone can legally purchase crypto. So you can see that it's like even with you can lawfully invest in cryptocurrency assets through your CIBC bank account or a card. To purchase Bitcoin or through digital currencies, you must register with a regulated Canadian crypto exchange that accepts transfers from CIBC Bank. And it's somewhat being recognized as something for exchange, a medium of exchange. Once it reaches that level where it starts having monetary value, not in itself, not intrinsic value, but it's just a value of its exchange. And it's subjective amongst the people, whatever the people consider it. And this is what people are referring to, that it most likely may be considered as recognized as a currency. And some people give it different names. It's not a real currency, it's called a distorted currency. said, different names. Call it what you want, but this is a currency. تفضل.
Number 2, cryptocurrencies are directly dealt via platforms available online or through brokers. These platforms are chargeable, and the client should have a personal electronic wallet on his computer to document his ownership of the cryptocurrency and its dealing possibilities. One of the most distinctive characteristics of electronic platforms and wallets is the possibility of using pseudonyms on these platforms known as anonymity. Number 3, some countries such as Malaysia have made it mandatory to obtain a necessary license from the relevant authorities.
And then the way they trace it back is by addresses. And that's scary. It's not even like full information, documentation. It's by addresses. They said everything is traceable. What is it traceable? By addresses. Not actually like individuals. Like with buying and selling, you need to know who's the buyer, you need to know the mushtari, you need to know something that you can relatively, if something were to go wrong, this is refundable. But Bitcoin, they say it's not refundable. It's one of the transactions that's not refundable, brothers. Follow.
Some countries such as Malaysia have made it mandatory to obtain a necessary license from the relevant authorities to utilize these electronic platforms. These countries have also put in place regulations for users of these platforms. In particular, users should display their real identities. Number 4, although cryptocurrencies have spread in many countries, in thousands of retail stores have taken the place of national currencies, and some government authorities have approved them, many studies indicate the risks of using cryptocurrencies, in particular currency rates fluctuations. Second, Shariah ruling. After reviewing the research presented and after listening to the debates on the subject, it turned out that other issues are affecting Shariah rulings on cryptocurrencies which require more research and discussions, including the following questions. What is the accurate definition of the cryptocurrency? Is it a product, a benefit, an investment asset, or digital asset? Is cryptocurrency considered by Sharia a real value and a tradable item? Third, in light of the above and given the significant risks associated with this type of currencies and the instability of their transactions, the Council of the Academy recommends pursuing research and studies on issues affecting its ruling, and Allah knows best.
So some of the members of that committee said it's just an imaginary number, which is generated through a complex mathematical process. It is purchased for gambling or speculations. Main people that purchase, invest into, it's for gambling. He wants to put a small amount and something spikes and he's the most richest guy in the world. It's like a lottery, just pays money, just guessing, just hoping that with speculation, there's no real hard wealth that is being consumed, that a person is putting forward and taking certain means to raise his wealth and to reach that level. A guy can be flipping burgers at McDonald's, and through Bitcoin, tomorrow he's ranked as the 19th richest man in the world. That's what happened. From flipping burgers, the guy is the 19th richest man in the world. Cheap, huh? That's why some of the Muslims, they're into that. They're into it because of the spike. They're not really into it as an investment and something that they just want to. They said in the year, the vision is that in cryptocurrency in 2030, that what it projects is going to be, one Bitcoin is going to be equivalent to $180,000 US. And this is what this type of spike has never heard in history. That's why the scholars are really taking their time before issuing a verdict. So the safer stance is to hold back, a tawaqquf. Wealth is not something that you're supposed to just jump into. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ الرِّجَالًا يَتَخَوَّضُونَ فِي مَالِ اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ فَلَهُمُ النَّارِ يَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ. Comes a hadith in Bukhari, and Khawla al-Ansariya, that very men engage into the wealth of Allah with no rights. So for them is the hellfire on the Day of Judgment. If you don't ta'tul buyut min abwabiha, if you don't go to his proper wealth from his proper doors, and you earn it in a manner that's not legislated Islamically, then this is the threat. You're not supposed to. This is a matter that requires caution. Caution as much as possible. And now they have certain Shariah compliant cryptocurrencies. They call them, they say they're designed and developed to comply with Islamic financial principles, specifically those related to prohibiting usury and uncertainty. So they have certain portfolios, and they said they looked into even out of 106 cryptocurrencies, 56 is halal and 50 is haram. 56 is halal and 50 is haram. And this still requires a lot of caution. So what the Fiqh Academy of Majma' al-Fiqh al-Dawali, who has the president Sheikh Salih bin Humaid, Sheikh Abdullah bin Sulaiman al-Mani'a, and other great leading figures of scholars, and saying that it requires more research and to hold back. This is the safer stance. Is there anything left for them? Yeah.
Conclusion. Regarding this topic, what many scholars have stated is, as of now, trading in cryptocurrencies is from the doubtful matters that we have been commanded in the legislation to avoid, being it is a gray zone since it is not clearly halal. We know halal transactions are the clear-cut ones, for verily inna al-halal bayyin, halal is clear and not doubtful as comes in the narrations.
Yeah, so Imam Shawkani, he explains the hadith, وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ. Between the halal and haram or doubtful matters, he has a whole treatise. And doubtful matters, it's a gray zone. You don't want to rush into them. Don't be like these people. They said, but if we don't invest now, later on when it becomes a large amount, we're not going to lose out. That's what's their main answer. Say, no, it's not about, we don't look at things from these emotions. We look at things academically and, is there a fog around it? We want to come in knowing that this is halal zulal. This is halal like water. That's how the transaction is supposed to be. You're not supposed to go into it and say, I'm a bit hesitant. No, دع ما يريبك إلى ما يريبك. الاسم ما حاك في نفسك. Sin is what bothers you, irritates you inside. وتردد في الصدر, and it's just, sin is not sitting well, that transaction. You're feeding your family with that wealth, and deep inside, you can't sleep well because it's not 100% to you. وَإِنْ أَفْتَوْكَ وَأَفْتَوْكَ. Even if the people give you fatwa, that is halal. There's taqwa and there's fatwa, brothers. Scholars, they say there's taqwa. That sometimes the people give you fatwa, you say, let me just look at this one thing that I... So this is it in a nutshell, inshallah. I wanted to conclude. So this is a safer stance. To say that these gigantic ulama, that it needs further research, and it's a gray zone, it's still unclear, and the safer stance is to say it's doubtful, and that we should hold back and not engage into it. And yes, there's some who come and say it's haram, not in itself, but muharram min bab tahrim al-wasail. Because of what it leads to, we say it's haram. Not in itself it's haram, but because it leads to things that people are being scammed. Government of the ruler of his own country cannot recognize it through the central banks because of fear of criminal activity, or so many different affairs of factors of how it speculates ups and down and still doesn't have substantial causes that is really known. And they're like huge countries like China going in and then falling back from it, saying we're no longer allowing it. And this is something to consider. And then also America, that has bought the most Bitcoins. A lot of what they've sold, there's still some remaining. People are saying, why are they holding back from a lot of that? People are questioning, like, why? SubhanAllah. There's a lot of questions that people are thinking what's going on. So, they say it's one of the greatest risks in the price of history charts. It has a wild ride with Bitcoin investors, and that even it's... Let me just read here, inshallah, just to show, make a person a bit hesitant to fall back. Inshallah, we might be able to convince some brothers. Even when they see the results, the money, see this guy making money. Allahumma salli. Times are hard. When there's inflation, everybody's jumping onto everything, Sheikh. They find fatwas. But if times wasn't hard, you'll find some people, they'll have some taqwa, inshallah. They'll be hesitant. But when times are hard, people are shopping for fatwas. Tayyib. Just wanted to read a couple of notes and then we'll stop there. So I wanted to read an important note here. There's certain negatives that are irreversible that can happen to you with Bitcoin, and there's no one who can reverse or help you. And no one's going to help you. I think if I read that quote for the brothers, that's the make it or break it quote, inshallah. Huh? Allah, la ilaha illallah. Bitcoin, some have said, is a digital asset. It is more common for investors to misplace or forget what they have purchased. As a matter of fact, research reveals that until 2022, 4 million Bitcoins, or the equivalent of 140 billion US dollars, based on current pricing, had been irreversibly lost. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Islam jab bihifd al-mal, brothers. Islam came to preserve wealth. And this is what we need to be hesitant about. That type of wealth, there's so much masakeen out there. It went ma'ariyah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So we'll stop with this, inshallah. We won't take any questions because we said it still requires research. And we'll leave it like this. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.